What we're going to be dealing with today is making a banana. So we worked on a cherry, and that was using just basic shapes and gradients in there. And in some ways, working on this is actually going to be simpler. Using a basic shape, we're going to kind of mess around with its construction, so that way it becomes a curved shape. And then from this curved shape, we're actually going to apply something called a gradient mesh tool. So how that works and what that is going to be a tool that's hidden underneath our gradient tool. So if we left click and drag, you can see that we have mesh tool and gradient tool. We've already used that gradient tool. We talked quite a bit about this one. The mesh tool allows for us to do something that is pretty interesting. As you see, I have one object right here, and if I actually hide everything in here, except for this one, you can see it's an object, but it almost looks like a polygon object where we have the quads inside of here. So it almost looks like a 3D object. And what this really is a simple shape that has these little tiny intersections. And everywhere there's an intersection, you can add color. So if I change this one to red, all of a sudden you'll notice this thing red. That's pretty cool. What this is doing for us is allowing for me to be able to control an object and add colors only where we have these marks of these intersections. These work the same way by navigating to an area and moving them around, scaling this in and out, changing colors. And if we actually look at just this object right here, this is all using that gradient mesh tool. It actually looks almost like a banana all on its own. So how do we construct that, and what are some safe procedures for this? Well, I'm going to start off by making a 1280 by 1024. And what I need to do here, let's go into my write-up. I have this reference image. Use that. I'm going to click download. Now I have a banana reference, and I'm going to just the same way I did this before. I'm going to add that to my docs. So I'm going to go into my documents, and I'm going to go to my Illustrator. So I'm just going to go in here and actually make new folder. Dig apps 1. And inside of here, it's already there. I'm going to right click, go to new, and make banana exercise. Whatever. There we go. Alright. I need to grab this and add that to that folder. So I'm just going to make sure that I can do that. So I'm going to grab from here to there, just drag it in. There we go. And now, in Adobe Illustrator, I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to place my banana reference. So place, it's connected to my mouse. I'm just going to left click and drag that. Here it is. And I'm going to call that banana ref. I'm going to lock it down. Okay, let's look at what this tool can do. If I were to draw something out, so I'm going to just use my pen tool, and I'm going to make a new layer, call that banana. I'm going to click and click and start drawing out the shape of this banana. Now, when I do this, I have an object I can start to work on. I'm not going to do anything beyond this. I'm going to go to my gradient mesh tool, and you'll notice if I go inside of this object and I click, it allows for me to add these points. These points allow for me to be able to create the, have a seat, we're having a demo.
This
Gradient mesh tool. So what this is allowing for me to do is be able to create points on my mesh. When I click on these points, you'll notice I can click directly on one line and have an intersection that will be added to it. Or I can click in a brand new place and it will add a horizontal and vertical, or however that is that this is being added. That's pretty awesome. The problem is that you'll notice this doesn't feel like it's following the contours of this shape at all. As a matter of fact, this is really messy. When we start with an object like this that we've created, it ends up not giving us the most ideal of shapes. It ends up giving us these really strange looking spots on here. So there's actually a better way to construct our banana's body than to do that using the gradient mesh tool on an object that we created. I'm actually going to trash this one, and I'm going to use a rectangle. So with this rectangle, I'm actually going to make a new layer, and I'm going to use my rectangle and just drag out something like this. From here, I'm going to use my gradient mesh tool, and I'm going to click right on the center. Okay, so it kind of gave me this little grid here. Now, if I were to hold down Control and click on this eyeball, that gave me an outline. It made the layer that I'm currently working on just an outline, so that way I can position this thing the way I want it to be without it being in the way. This is a very helpful thing for me to be able to do. So what I'm going to do is use my direct selection tool. I'm going to bring this over to here. And right now I'm just thinking about this simply beginning, middle, and end. And what I'm going to do is actually bring my end of this thing all the way over here for now. What I want to do is start to place my points around here. And now I've ran out of information. I can't add any more. So I'm just going to use my gradient mesh tool and go like right here. I've added another one in here. I'm going to move this one down. I'll move my anchor points. I'll move this one down. And again, we're just blocking out. I'm not concerned about this looking a little bit sloppy for now. I'm going to clean this up as I go. So I have this one, I have that one. Clean up that one handle. Clean up that handle. Okay. Again, I'm going to add another point. So each time I add one of these, every time there's an intersection, is going to give me the ability to add another color that will blend with other colors around the edges of that. If I go around here, scale that down again, I'll go around here. And the effort of setting this up is definitely well worth it, because you'll notice instead of what we did last time with the apple by putting a bunch of, or the apple, the cherry, by putting in a bunch of overlaying shapes and colors and blends to do that, we might be able to accomplish that just by adding our points from our gradient mesh, or our mesh tool. So now I have this. I'm going to move this down, move that one over, move that one down, and all right, this one up, this one over, and then my last one. It's important that we pay attention to our beginning, middle, and end of this, because this is how it's wrapping itself around. So that was the right-hand side that's now this end part. This is going to allow for me to be able to keep this nice and clean and be able to have my mesh follow the contours of this shape. Now that I'm at here, I'm making a decision. I'm going to use I'm going to go up a little bit higher here. Actually, let's go all the way up to the stem here. So if I'm at this point and that's my end, I just need to add some more. So we'll add a couple intersections like right here, maybe one right here. And I'll take those, and I'll take this one, make it go up to the top. So right here. And I'll make this one go like in the middle. And just like how we were working with our handles exercises and making the curves, all that fun stuff, the first time right here, just the same techniques, just applied to a different shape. And again, this is well worth the wait because you're going to see how this ends up becoming an object very quickly. Just making that match maybe a little bit better here. And I'm just going to move maybe this, that up, and this one over. Alright, so now that I have something like this, I can organize these a little bit better later. Alright. I'm trying to find areas of highlight and shadow on this object. And you can kind of see that. I've got this green ring around the top, and I got a brown shadow down there. So what I'll do is start moving some of these anchor points to organize that into different bands, so to speak. So I have my green one that I'm going for right now. And I'll click on this one, and I'll adjust it here, adjust that here, and I'll take that one, I'll move that one up. I want to add another band to the bottom, so I'm just going to go into my tool again, and I'm going to click somewhere around here, and it should go straight around, and it did. And you notice it's following that shape really, really well. So I'm just going to bring this down and match where that is. Almost there. And let's take this handle, pull that out a little bit more. Good. So now that I have something like this, let's start adding some colors. So if I were to look at this as not just this outline, but I hold down Control and I click, it's going to be all white. It's not something I can work with yet. So what I want to do is I want to be able to sample the colors of my banana. So I'm going to go back into outline mode, and I'll select that object. I'm going to start selecting colors. So I have, with my A key, I've zoomed in, and I've selected this anchor point right here. I am going to use my eyedropper tool and sample, and you'll notice it changes this color to that. I'm going to go over here. So I tap the A key, again, for the direct selection tool, and I'll use my eyedropper tool, select over here. So I'm just going around and doing this, and sampling the colors that are closest to what I have here. Now we want to go for a more generalist color. We don't want to go with detail colors, we want to go with what the main shape is. If I was going around here and I sampled this whole area would be much darker than the colors around this spot here. Those are details rather than the main shape. So if I select these spots, and then go through and sample. And it just takes a little bit of time to go around, and if you mess up, it's not a big deal. We just resample a different spot. And we're just blocking this out. Now, I can't see much of what's going on yet, but once I go from outline mode to my fill of this gradient mesh, there's going to be a huge difference. Remember, this was all white before. So I have this one, sampling it, this one, sampling it. And, alright, so we got something like this. I'm going to go zoom out. Now, let's turn this back on. I'm going to hold down Control, click on the eye, turn off the outline. I'm going to go zoom out. Now, let's turn this back on. I'm going to hold down Control, click on the eye, turn off the outline. I'm going to hold down Control, click on the eye, turn off the outline. I'm going to hold down Control, click on the eye, turn off the outline. I'm going to hold down Control, click on the eye, turn off the outline. I'm going to hold down Control, click on the eye, turn off the outline. I'm going to hold down Control, click on the eye, turn off the outline. I'm going to hold down Control, click on the eye, turn off the outline. I'm going to hold down Control, click on the eye, turn off the outline. I'm going to hold down Control, click on the eye, turn off the outline. I'm going to hold down Control, click on the eye, turn off the outline. I'm going to hold down Control, click on the eye, turn off the outline. I'm going to hold down Control, click on the eye, turn off the outline. I'm going to hold down Control, cli or turn off the reference, and now we have this. It's almost there. I need to add some more samples to it, but you can see how we're starting to get some colors on this. So what I'll do is I'll turn on control. I'll click control to go and turn this into outline mode. And let's just add another band. I'll go around here. And this band should help, because if I were to look at this one, this is going to give me some highlight around this whole center part. So I'm just going to follow, again, these spots. So again, I have my direct selection tool on my object, and I'm using my eyedropper, click, whoop, and we want to make sure, I just want to lock that. Sometimes it's a pain in the butt if this isn't locked to your reference, so just make sure the reference is locked. There we go. And we're just going all the way up this again. So this is sort of like an additive process. The more detail we add, the more that's going to look like it has a set of dimensionality to it. You can see it's already starting to pop. Now, we don't want to do too much at once. You'll notice I'm slowly adding. I'm not going through and adding 100 different spots on this, because what ends up happening is it becomes unmanageable. So like maybe I want some more like right here. So I've got this band. I'm going to readjust where that is, just to make sure it's following the lines I want it to be. Move that handle there. And again, just going around and sampling these pieces. Anytime that these handles get a little bit like S-shaped next to each other, you just need to squish them down a little bit more. So I'll sample like a color here. I'll grab that one, sample that. And this one. Okay, so let's see what we got. To get further highlights and shadows and all that stuff going on here, you'll see that I have added very, very rough shapes onto this. So let's just look at what we have for this gradient mesh that I constructed earlier. It was this. Not a ton of bands on here, but just one in every area that I feel I need to have just additional details. And what I ended up doing from there is adding details like this part of the stem that was broken off, and I need to add some more details to that part right here. That's the last part I started working on. And then I started putting in the little bruises, and you'll see as I start to add some of these spots here, very subtle. So at first I put this extra highlight here, and all that was this shape that I had blurred out using opacity. And then as I keep going by turning these on, you'll notice little tiny dots and shapes. And all this is quite literally a ellipse tool. So a round tool that I drew out, and I feathered it. And I held down Alt and dragged out, just like in Photoshop if you want to duplicate something. And if I keep going, you can see there's more and more of these that have been added. This didn't take very long. I just duplicated these things over and over again. So again, if I wanted to add more of these little spots, I had one, hold down Alt, and drag over here. And now there's another one right there. If it's too dark compared to other areas, because it looks like it's more towards a highlight area, I can change my opacity on this and just drop it down a little bit. And now it should blend in a little bit more with that shape. And I just keep going and adding these things until I have myself a banana. Now the banana's not really there. I want to add a background. So I'm going to make a rectangle. Go around here. And let's go, I don't know, maybe purpley. And let's add a shadow to this. So I'll put a shadow above this, just a simple rounded out shape here that I will add let's do a dark purpley color and then put a feather on it. So stylize, feather. And let's see what that's doing for us. Okay, it needs to be a little bit more than that because that's just a much larger shape there. And let's change our opacity. It's starting to look a lot better. If I make this even look better, I can just take this thing. I'm going to duplicate it by holding down Alt and dragging, so I have another one, and shrinking it down. I'll take the opacity on this one and then lift it up a little bit higher and reduce my feather a little bit. So now I've got two shadows, and it's very subtle on this one right here, but it's just having my the spot where it's having contact with the ground have a little bit more definition to it. And let me just grab that feather and drop that down a little bit more just to crisp up that one. So you can see right there. So this grounds that. So that's what we're going to be doing on this assignment, is working on making a banana. Now, same process as the cherry. You're going to work on that cherry and create that. And then that will be it for this one. Make sure your name's on it. Make sure things are organized inside of layers. Like this one should be banana, and this could be shadows. There we go. And now we can make sense of what that is. Last but not least, for what I want to go through for you guys for today, and I'll upload the gradient mesh tool tutorial in here for those who want to see that. We have discussions, one that's going to be coming soon. That's going to be on Wednesday. So this is a mandatory submission due date. It is going to be seeing where your progress is on your sticker. Because what's due a week after this week? Yeah, the whole thing. So we want to make sure that we're making progress on that. And that progress report is going to be very helpful. So we'll have wherever you're at, so we can help each other out, figure out where to go further with that piece. Remember, if you haven't posted color comps and sketches, those are to be inside of here as well. So put those in here. I've gotten some from some people. Make sure that you have your ideas inside there so I can see where you're at as well. Don't let these deadlines sneak up on you. We have basically Monday, today, all the way through the end of this week, and then we have Monday of next week, and then Wednesday is when it's due. So about a week and a half left. Questions on gradient tool or the project? All right, let's keep going. We stop recording.